But firstly, tonight, I'm stoked to say that we've got Toby Martin here, ex-ASP legend from the World Tour. So stoked to have Toby on this chat tonight. Now real estate agent, still ripping around Northern Beaches. So thanks, Toby, for joining us. We've got Ben Higgs is here, obviously with around the Maroubra area. He's been locked down with a family, and he's really done a lot in the mental health space and done a lot for the New South Wales community. And Ben will explain what his organisation does a bit later. We've got Koda Killorn. He's an amazing Grom from Connellan, from Maroubra. Hey, we will take him. He's over this side training with Driggsy all the time, so we'll take him. And he's actually doing a little traineeship with us through year 11 and 12. So Koda's really connected to our family at Surfing New South Wales, ripping, and he's going to share some stories about what he's been going through and how he's been dealing with a few things in his life. We've got Brett Connellan. So Brett obviously is an amazing athlete down there at Kiama area, and has gone through the trauma of a shark attack. So Brett will be explaining to us how he's been dealing with that throughout his life. Kurt Nyholm, from dealing with bushfires down there at Ulladulla area on the south coast, small town, running a surf shop, running boardriders, you name it. Kurt, obviously ex-pro surfer as well. We're stoked to have you a part of this, mate. And then finally, Steve from Man Anchor, who, he's co-hosting this. I'll pass it over to you, Steve. Introduce yourself and we'll get stuck into it.
Okay, thanks, Lukey. Well, I'm not used to hosting. I'm usually the guy sitting on the panel waiting for my turn to speak. So it's nice to have co-hosting duties, mate. So thank you very much for the invitation. Guys and girls, it's been a difficult, 24 months for many of us. And the last 18 months especially has been really, really difficult. I think every one of us has been affected a little bit by, the changes that we've all felt through COVID. I think everyone's been affected some way. There's been stress, distress or crisis in each of our lives. And, one of the constant things that is there for us is surfing. I live at Longreef. I'm a father of 3 young boys, and my 2 9-year-old boys. We love getting out in the water together and just washing away any of that stress, any of that stuff that's loading us up. And for me, it's my mindfulness. It's the way I practice mindfulness. I know you're looking at me and going, he looks like a hippie. I bet you he's meditating 24 hours a day. He's probably got boat pants on right now. But for me, like just hitting the water, and I'm a kook. I'm a really big kook, but hitting the water and getting a couple of waves can really wash away what's going on, that could be weighing me down. I'm passionate about supporting Surfing New South Wales and the 360 program because, growing up on the coast, growing up surfing, it's a special sort of sport that you can do with 3-4 generations of family. You go to a boardriders club. I think of one of my best mates, Wayne Seckham, and he's got his 2 boys in boardriders. He surfs in boardriders, and they've got Lynn's, his dad, who's in his 70s and still ripping. That's pretty special. And it's a community that really supports everyone. One of the things that I'm passionate about is education. And I think education and communication are the 2 keys about creating a different view when it comes to mental health. It's the way that we really push that generational change around how we address mental health within our community and ultimately how we address suicide. So, guys, firstly, I'd like to acknowledge anyone in the room that has lived experience with a mental illness. I'd like to acknowledge anyone in the room that supported a friend, family member, or work colleague or club member through a mental health crisis or mental illness as well. I'd also like to remind everyone that you're not alone, that we are here to support you. There's a number of different resources out there that you can turn to if you feel overwhelmed by anything you hear today or tonight. We have Lifeline text line, which is really great. You can sit on there and flick through text messages and get them back. suicide callback line. Beyond Blue has heaps of wonderful resources to dig a little bit deeper around mental health. We also have the Blonde Blue web chat in the men's health line, 1-800-RESPECT. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you that domestic violence isn't a male-female thing. It doesn't have a gender. Male-female, female-male, male-male, female-female. It does not have a gender. We need to acknowledge that. I'd also like to remind you all about Kids Helpline as well, from 5 to 25. You can ring that if you're an adult or a carer, a parent, sorry. We have Q Life as well, and we also have Headspace as well. And there's a Headspace across a wide range of communities. Look, while we're here tonight, we're here to kickstart the conversation around mental health, and we're also here to celebrate the 360 program, which I'm really, really proud to say that I've been a part of since the beginning with Benny Higgs from the Rise Foundation. Just 1 second, guys. I just realised I didn't plug my laptop in, and I was wondering why the battery was skinking down. So bear with me. That's not very professional of me. I only spend all day, every day on this thing, and you don't want me to drop off, do you? There we go. Easily fixed. Disaster diverted. So, yeah, the Mental Health 360 program was the brainchild of the crew at Surfing New South Wales, and it's really about building the tools and empowering the community to look after each other. Over the years, we've had some wonderful programs being run. Ben and myself from Man Anchor and the Rise Foundation have been promoting and supporting boardriders clubs with mental health first aid programs. I think we've done close to 80, and I think there's 40 clubs or 45 clubs that now have mental health first aiders there to support the community. We've had Cooper Chapman and the Good Human Project out there as well, and he's got a new program that's kicking off with Surfing New South Wales called, and I just bear with me, Ride the Wave program. And I spoke to Cooper today. He's actually in Huntington Beach getting prepared for a couple of the WQSs, and he wanted me to share that, you know, the program is about providing tools to support and empower positive mental health and positive lifestyle. We have the Man Anchor Let's Talk series as well, which we'll be creating. Each of these events are available online or with your board riders club or with your community. We also have an event that's for the eastern suburbs as well, which is run by Benny Higgs and the Rise Foundation in conjunction with the 360 program, and it's called 360 in the 2035, and it's really about giving, once again, young people, male and female, tools to support their well-being and support healthy lifestyle. So there's some of the things that we have got coming up. You can find all these things on the Surfing New South Wales website. If you head down to the 360 program, or you can find it in the chat now that we've just popped in there now. You can go in there, check it out. What we're looking for is we're looking for champions. We're looking for people who want to really create open, transparent conversations in their communities, okay? It doesn't just need to be in your board riders club. We want to support the whole community. You know, Luke and the guys at Surfing New South Wales have a big job. There's over 1 million recreational surfers in New South Wales. I'm guessing there's probably 1 million plus now after COVID, trying to get waves at the moment with everyone taking up surfing. And it's really hard when you're a Kooky, you struggle to get waves anyway. But look, more in the water means more people are healthy, and that's the main thing. So tonight we have some really wonderful panelists, okay? They've all got their own special story. And one of the powerful things about, you know, opening up and creating opportunities around mental health is storytelling. And so we've got 6 wonderful panelists tonight that are here to share their story about, you know, how they've overcome challenges and how surfing supported them, you know, during their life, during difficult times and during COVID. So I thought we'll spend like half an hour or so kicking off and having a chat to each of these people and getting to know them. Kick off with Tobes. Tobes is a fellow Northern Beaches boy. I'm on the other side of the pole. I'm at Longy, he's at DY, but we're on the same beach, I guess we would call it. Yeah, Tobes, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, really important issue. Obviously, a really tough time, as you said, for everyone out there. So many life changes, a once in a 100-year pandemic. But just when you look back over the stats, and obviously you get to a certain age, and I've lost, more than a handful of friends to suicide. We had an event that Kurt put together for, essentially it was an old boys get together day, and sort of got all the guys from the tour. We travelled around the world together, and essentially we got down there to the south coast of Ulladulla, which is a really easy excuse to get out of Sydney. And that group just sort of expanded as things sort of unfolded, and then it became more about just more than just getting the old boys together, as we'd had a few people that had committed suicide and really tried to raise awareness. And it was a really cool event. It was just a magic day. The surf really came to the fore. It was absolutely pumping, 4 to 6 foot golf course reef. So the day really turned it on for us. The next day was onshore and 2 foot and horrible. And but just the camaraderie and to get back together for a greater purpose. And we had some really keynote speakers. One of our dear friends lost that battle in John Schmooker last year, which was really tough. He was, as a good mate of Schmooze, this is still probably hard for a few of us to talk about, but he battled for a long time, and he had lots of tools and probably one of the greatest support networks that there is as well. We're not going to win every battle, but I think the more that we educate each other, the more that we open up in these conversations, the more that we don't feel isolated and alone, and it's our own problem. If we sort of share our experiences without being overwhelmed, that there is challenges every day and you're not alone. And it's that moment where your friends aren't there in the middle of the night. You've just got to have some purpose in the back of your mind. It's always darkest before the dawn, and try and take on the new day. And if you can just chip away at those challenges in life, I think that's a really key message. I had one of my childhood heroes in Garth Dickinson, who on the surface was very successful. He's got a great restaurant down there at Pilgrims. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me telling you guys he opened up about his attempted suicide patterns. 4 beautiful kids, a successful business. I mean, this really is an issue that does not discriminate from whether it be Sonny Garcia and world champions. Our youth of today, we've had a lot of kids on the northern beaches decide to take their life, which is alarming. And then you start to find out and want to unearth a little bit about the stats, and it's still the number one killer, and especially for men. There's over 3,000 suicides every year, and it's not acceptable. And if you live this life and you've had such an opportunity to go and do what you want, be a professional surfer, be a professional athlete, you've really got to dedicate some time to putting back in and trying to change this wave that's just not the answer. And like I said, we're not going to win every battle, but if we can reduce that, that's sort of my mandate. And if you've got the tools around you from some of the people that we've got here today, that's really cool. So,
thanks, Dave. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being
really open.
Beg your pardon?
Was that 5 minutes?
You nailed it, mate. You got it. You nailed it. Good on you, mate.
Look, you
get another 5 minutes later, all right? Now, Kurt, Toby spoke about, the work you've done within the community, the surfing community and the wider community. And, you've gone through a bit yourself over the last couple of years, fire, floods, and now COVID down on the coast there. How's life been going for you? And how have you traversed through all this?
Well, we've sort of ebbed and flowed, I guess, through the last 2.5, 3 years. Everyone's a different challenge. The fires were like incredible. You can't explain that sort of the horrific how they were. That was real danger. That was real. You touch it, you burn. danger, and it was close. It was a monster. Through COVID, you don't see it. You can walk out your front door and you don't get attacked by it like you would a fire. So it's not as visual in your face. So the air of, I guess, the anxiety levels, because we dealt with the fires down here for months it was, and especially like a lot of friends losing houses, and how quick it went through, and the constant helicopters over our heads, the sirens, and you did feel like you're in a war zone. So then we had floods, which was really weird, and I'd go floods any day. You can touch the water and that's all good. And then the COVID is something that, again, as a business, as our own surf shop, so dealing with that and the lack of opening hours and all that sort of stuff, the financial stress starts weighing on you. You've already gone through the fires where people were warned not to come down here to be part of it all. Then you had the flood, then it was then COVID. So it's been a really strange time to get through the last 2.5 years. But I think with what's happening with us right now, it is out of our hands. It's something that, so for mental health, I've decided not to stress as much as I would have if I was sitting with my shop full of, I have like 300 surfboards. So all surfboards sitting there that aren't selling, or I've got 200 wetsuits that are sitting on the rack. I realise it's a government thing that's stopping to stop. It's for health. It's a health reason why it's happening. It's it's for the better good. So that sort of mental, that's just a different sort of approach, I guess, compared to the fires, where you're dealing with anxiety, you're dealing with actual loss. We lost some friends who didn't make it out of the fires. We saw so many of our friends lose their homes, and they still haven't got back into their homes. Now there's lots of stories out there within that, which I won't really go into here. They're quite horrific. You see a lot on the news and you go, yeah, the fires, and I guess you do get a little numb to it. And you go, oh yeah, they've got a fire down there. But when you actually saw what we had, the only thing I can liken it to is Mordor, that in Lord of the Rings, the explosions, the fires, the houses erupting. It was real. It was like hell. So yeah, that was a challenge to get through. And of course, like you said at the start, it's the surfing that's the cool meditator. It takes you there. It's I always sort of laugh, like it takes so much. It doesn't take much to think about when you're surfing, but when you're actually surfing and you're out in the water, it doesn't matter who you are or what level you are, everyone's equal. And then when a wave comes, it takes that much concentration. You have to, it's your soul energy is all into surfing that wave. Like, this might sound a bit gross, but you can be sitting there doing a pee in your weddy and a wave comes and you got to stop. You got to turn around and catch that wave. And then you pull off the wave and you're like, oh shit, so I was doing a wee. That's how much devotion it takes to a concentration to that. So I think when you get in the water, it says a lot. Now, Toby did speak a little bit about Garth Dicko at the event that we held 2 years ago. And Garth, when he bravely spoke to a huge crowd and opened up, he said that one of his biggest saviors was he was sitting there looking at the ocean, and he was just about to do it, like just about to end it all. He rang a friend, and his friend said, jump in the water. And he said the waves are horrible. It was hideous. And he just did it. He just jumped in the water. He swam. And he said that swim saved my life. And he came out. And exactly like what Tobe said, Garth down here is a lord. He's so well respected. He's a beautiful individual. He's an amazing surfer. He's got pilgrims. If you guys have never had pilgrims before, get your ass down here. It's awesome. Yeah, so I guess that's a way that he saw an out, was, getting into the water and concentrating on being in the water.
Yeah, wow. I'm not joking. I got goosebumps from you and Tobe so far. And wow. Look, I had the pleasure of representing Surfing New South Wales down the coast. Where was it again, Kurt? Where was I? The flat South Coast.
You're down at Narooma.
Narooma, yeah, beautiful Narooma. And I spent the day on the beach talking to people of all different ages, and it was just amazing. And like for us that are in metro areas, we saw the smoke, but we didn't have. But I don't think we really had an idea of what was going on down there. But an unbelievable community down that south coast that are supporting each other. And for anyone that is from the south coast that needs support, please reach out to Surfing New South Wales. We have resources available to help. And we have wonderful people like Kurt that are down there that are champions supporting the well-being. And I look forward to hopefully get an invite to that next time you run that event as well. That event
was amazing. It really, everything aligned. It was, like Tobe said, the waves turned out to be unreal. There's a beautiful resort down here called Bannisters who hosted it, and it's 5-star. It's a lot of the surf community really put their hand up and they wanted to be part of it. There was John I saw in here before from Bicester. He was very supportive, giving product and things like that. That it's not like that we wanted product to do, but it just adds good things for the day to creates a bit more of an atmosphere and things like that. But I mean, the surf community was very advocate for it. They were, yep, we're all in. Luke at the whole team at Surfing New South Wales, Shmoo was a big part of it. Those guys were phenomenal. They brought everything down, and it was very special. It was very special, and it just came from a conversation that started up, and then it went to like a thread, on Facebook, like a messages, and there's quite a few people in there now. Tobes in there, and look, there's probably around about 50, 60 ex-pro surfers, or maybe more, that we all keep in contact, and we all, let people know what's going on. They're all aware of this right now. So yeah, it was a cool little thing.
Beautiful. The power of connection. The power of connection. Thanks, mate. I really appreciate you sharing your story and what's been going on for you. And good luck with the event next time, John. I definitely want an invite. I love the South Coast. So now
everyone's invited to it. It's not an elite thing. It's it's more just a mental health. It's a fun event. It's to catch up.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, Benny and I will go on a road trip together. Huh?
It's fun till Kurt wants the inside.
Yeah, fantastic.
The things you do for charities.
Now we go to Koda. And Koda's got an unbelievable story as well for a young guy. He's 17, turning 18 soon. But Koda's got a really big story where he had lost his brother Cooper a couple of years ago. And Koda, you want to tell us a little bit about your story, bud, and your journey to wellness, because I think it's frigging inspiring. So
yeah, so I'm just grateful to be here to start off. And so I lost my eldest brother Cooper 3 weeks before my 15th birthday, and it's still tough, but the best thing is I still see him around. His spirit animal is an eagle, so whenever I'm surfing or going up the coast, I can see this eagle, and he's always just got guidance over me, which is really, really cool. But I've been through stages of the grief with dealing with him, and it kind of all started off with, I read a book called The Resilience Project, and it was all about gratitude and empathy. And it actually taught me to journal, which is what I do every day now. So I just journaled out the thought, for me, it was hard to talk to people because I didn't know what to talk about or what to say. So instead, I wrote it down in a book. I didn't care who read it. I didn't care what was in it. It was just getting every bad thought that was inside of me out so I could live my life. And then that kind of paired up with the meditation I do now. So I do Keely meditation with Matt Griggs down at Connellan. He's the founder in Australia. And the meditation just pairs up with it perfectly, because in the meditation, it's about learning to have nothing in your mind. So instead of having bad thoughts or even good thoughts, it's just about stilling your mind so that everything becomes clearer and you can live your life to the fullest. So in this meditation, it's only a 5-minute morning and night routine, and you start off just clearing from the top of your head down to your brain, which is where all your thoughts happen. And then you stay there for 1 or 2 minutes. Then at the surface of your mind, which is this section here, you're just there for another minute, stilling your brain, and then you come into your heart, which is called your greater Keely. And that's where all the emotions and all the heavy stuff's there. And it's just about kind of finding the happy place in there, I guess. And it's cool. I've had really good support dealing with the grief of my brother. Like my family was really big on helping me and finding whatever there was in the world that would help, they found. So that was really cool. And yeah, for me, surfing just was perfect because you can do your own thing. And that was the same with journaling and Keely. Could just take my own pace with everything and do the same thing with surfing. And I found with surfing, there was days where I really didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to sit on the couch, didn't want to talk to anyone. But I got the strength to get out of the house and I'd go surfing, and it was probably 1 to 2 foot sloppy. But as soon as I got out there, it was just released so much energy inside me, and it was just what I needed to do. And yeah, so now I've been 2 years with the Keely, like kind of doing it a lot, morning and night, pretty much every day. And I'm just growing with it. It's really, really exciting to see what I'm learning. And I'm learning more about myself by actually eliminating bad thoughts, which sounds pretty funny, but it's working. And yeah, every day I get a little realization of why I'm still here and why I love surfing. And I'm actually trying to make it as a pro surfer. So it's really cool to know why I'm surfing. And yeah, I've just been loving it.
Mate, you can't tell, but I'm smiling underneath his mustache. You are an absolute legend. You know, I wish I had the insight and the strength that you have at your age when I was your age. I think one of the great things about males is we're starting to realise that being able to be vulnerable and identify your emotions is a new sign of strength. And you are the perfect example of it, dude. You are the perfect example of it.
Yeah.
How often do you do it?
With that as well. Sorry.
No, go for it. Sorry.
So we had, I can't remember who it was, but in school we had a person come in for mental health for men's. And so we were year 12 to year 10. All of us come in a room, and this was the first time where I kind of told anyone my story. And we're sitting in a room, and there was a bit of banter because we're trying to make it into a good thing. And then, so he just asked, does anyone have any stories? So I told him, I stood up and went to the front of the whole group, and I pretty much told them my story. And then everyone went silent, which was like, because no one had kind of thought about being vulnerable in front of other males, and just, it's actually being more strong doing this. It doesn't there's no, I've forgotten the word.
Was that a good release for you, that moment? Obviously we carry these burdens inside us, and obviously it takes a lot of strength to get up and tell your story. But was that moment, did it let you feel free somewhat in telling people your story as well?
It was more of, I felt free because I knew I helped 60 people there. I felt okay with my story and telling everyone about it, but I actually got happier because everyone else now felt like they can tell their story.
Yeah, perfect, mate.
Wow.
Well, just a little backstory, mate. I lost my brother when I was young. I think I was in 2nd grade, my brother Timothy. And that was a real driver for me to try and achieve something in life. Probably no one really knows, or very few people would know that about me, that I lost my brother when I was very young, and it sort of added to, I guess, my chip on my shoulder at times where I wanted to go out and live for two, and I just wouldn't take no for an answer. But that was a real driver for me. I didn't have great talent to be a professional surfer, but I just got to a point where I said, I'm going to live for two, and I'm going to throw everything at this. I don't care how many no's I get. All I need is one yes. And I remember having that conversation with Perry Hatchett as a head judge. I went up and said, I've been on this tour for 5 years. I said, I've got so close. I said, take a look at my face. I'm going to turn up every bloody week until I make it. So have a good look. It's going to be here every week.
Beautiful, beautiful. Hey, Koda.
Yeah, you just not giving up and keep pushing through.
Yeah, thank you, Cobes. And it's great to hear that you're working with the crew at Surfing New South Wales as well. So good luck with becoming a professional surfer.
Thank you.
Good on you. I hope that's not my internet dropping out. Okay, if it is, sorry, I apologise. Thanks, Koda. Now we have one of my dear mates, and he's an inspirational bugger, Benny Higgs. Benny Higgs is the founder of the Rise Foundation and is what I call the mental health Yoda or ninja. He's a black belt in mental health, and Yoda. He's a Star Wars fan as well, and a punk rocker. We're the odd couple. Look at us, the hippie and the punk. So, Benny, you could. I know all of you could have a full half an hour, full 2 hours telling your story, but would you want to share your story and about the work that you do?
Thanks, Steve. Cheers. Thanks, everyone. It was sort of one of the nights where I wanted to go first and speak first because I know Koda and Brett really well, and I checked up on the other boys, and everyone's story was huge. But it was if I had to pick, I definitely didn't want to talk after Koda. So thanks for that, Steve. I've known Koda since he was born. His uncle's actually the godfather to one of my kids. And I just want to say, mate, that took so much strength and courage. And mate, how you spoke then, I'm so proud of you, mate. Well done, Koda. It's unreal to see, mate.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. Yeah, everyone. I grew up in a wonderful little suburb called Malabar. But for those out of the area, I just tell everyone that I grew up in Maroubra because everyone's heard of Maroubra, but no one, unless you've done some time in Long Bay, you've never really heard of Malabar. Yeah, Kate's done both. Yeah, I grew up and, I had this normal childhood. I don't have this traumatic childhood story or anything like that. I grew up in a really normal, stereotypical blue-collar working class family that, lived near the beach. Very lucky to grow up where I did, surf in Maroubra. Some of my longest friends, the friends I've had the longest, one of them's on this thing tonight, Simon Shepherd. I met through the beach, and it was surfing that brought us together. Me and Simon were ripping on lids back then, but we've moved on from there. We've grown up. But, surfing was a huge part of my life. And I guess I took it for granted living where I did. But in saying that as well, the crew I grew up with, it was hard growing up with them, although we were all good mates. Everyone's heard the stories of Maroubra. We had to be, the biggest partier, the best fighter, the best football player, all of that, and there was no room for weakness or vulnerability or emotion when we were growing up. And especially my household, my dad was a wharfie. He was as old school as you can get. And it was hard for me because I grew up with a mental illness and still live to this day with a mental illness. I live with type 2 bipolar. And I also live with what they call high suicidal ideation, which means I have thoughts of suicide every single day. It's not that I want to kill myself or I want to die all the time. It's just that I have this thought process rattling around in my head all the time. I explain it to people that I have a war inside my head. It's the easiest way to explain. I just have this war going on. My head lies to me, like most of us. But for me, I just live on a higher range, a higher frequency than most people. But I was never taught how to live with it or how to deal with it or best to treat it. Like most kids with mental illness that have got ignored. And for me, I turned to drink and drugs really to deal with it. The drink was the big one for me. You know, I'm very lucky that, you know, I never ran too much across the law. You know, I was one of those blokes that just got that drunk that you couldn't talk and had to get taken home. And unfortunately, you know, it became all the time for me. And then, you know, that led to me not wanting to be around people at all. So I'd do it at home on my own because that was the only way I knew how to deal with it. But it was 10 years ago that my life changed for the better and worse, really, in that one of my best friends in the world was, you know, reaching out to me and needed help. And I wasn't there to take his call. I actually, you know, just brushed his calls and let it go to voicemail because I was too scared to talk to him because I didn't know what to say or what he was going to tell me. And, you know, this is a guy I went to school with, I'd surfed with, I'd skated with, I'd partied with, I'd traveled with. I dated his sister for a short period of time, but it didn't go too well because I told her I liked him more than I liked her. So that was our relationship, you know. And, you know, even after everything I'd been through myself, I still couldn't take his call. And it went about 2 weeks and I got the call to say that he was dead and I'll never get to talk to him again, you know. And it's one of the hardest things I ever had to go through, that I wore really heavy, but it's also one of the best things. I look back now, the best things that ever happened to me because it changed my life. And, you know, I was in a job that I hated. I was in a place in life that I hated. And I just wasn't doing anything positive. You know, I'd given up surfing. You know, I'd given up doing all the things that I really enjoyed. And so, you know, after wearing it really heavy for a period of time and then losing another mate to suicide, I decided to make a change in my community. And I created a treadmill run. You know, Kurt and Toby talked before about, you know, that organic growth of that Facebook page. You know, I created a treadmill run and it started 2 treadmills at a little shitty bowling club at Maroubra that's no longer there. You know, and that organic growth that we talk about, because these things that we're talking about tonight, people don't know they can talk about it or they can actually do something until it's put in front of them, you know, until they actually see other people doing it, you know. And I was proof that that treadmill run that I started over the years became the largest event in the world. And then, you know, the largest event in the world for mental health awareness and suicide prevention, you know, from 2 small treadmills at Maroubra. You know, and that's not a brag by me by any stretch, but it's proof that every single one of us have the potential to create that change in our communities. You know, boys talked about it before with that Facebook page, you know, and then getting everyone together. You know, the 360 program, it's people wanting to do stuff and making a change. And we all soon see that as soon as you take that step, everyone will join you and everyone will come with you and everyone will start to talk about it. And it's all coming together as a community like that. And that's how we create this change. From there, I was, you know, I don't let the glasses fool you by any stretch. I'm not a psychologist or anything like that. I'm a wharfie by trade. I'm a very overpaid crane driver. I was anyway. But I went out, you know, I'd had enough. So I created my own foundation where I run a not-for-profit Rise Foundation, and very fortunate now I get to travel. Well, let me say that again. Before COVID, I got to travel a lot all over this country. And luckily enough, internationally, by running courses for people and, you know, mental health first aid, mental health response, doing workshops, going into businesses, communities, sporting groups, anyone that'd have me really, to have these chats and to learn some stuff. And, you know, and I've been lucky enough, even through that, you know, I've met Steve and we've done some great things together and have a great time. I met Brett. I've worked with Brett a few times. You know, it's as soon as we start to open up and we soon see that we're all the same at the end, I think, you know, boiled down, we just want to be happy, healthy and safe, you know, and we want the same things for our friends and family. And as soon as we strip away all the bullshit and start to talk about that, we can soon see that we can all help each other and we can all be there for each other and make that positive impact. You know, it's funny how things work. It was sort of towards the back of 2019. Like I said, I'd given up surfing. You know, I've tried to push the kids into it, and I'd probably go out maybe once every couple of months just so I could still call myself a surfer. You know, garage full of boards, all of that. I'd stopped doing it. And then I was on a place called Groot Island, which is a little island. It's like an hour flight from Darwin. And I was there for a week working in a mining town. And in my downtime, I'd sit there and have lunch and stuff. And it was this bluest, most beautiful water you've ever seen. You know, like, you know, I've surfed over in Indo and stuff like that, but this water was just something else. But there were signs all the way across it. You can't swim because of crocs and jellyfish. And I'd ended up in a really dark place. And I realized there's one thing that I knew could help me, which was the salt water. I couldn't access it. You know, and that was one of the toughest things. So since then, it's been good. I certainly don't surf as much as I should. I actually went surfing today. So I thought I'd be like an imposter if I got on this tonight, and I didn't actually have a surf under my belt lately. So I was out there, and it was disgraceful. I'm glad none of you saw me. But even if it's looking at the water or going for a swim, you know, there's something about that salt water that's magical. And you know, and that's one thing that all of us can connect over. It doesn't matter what walk of life we come from or what our religious beliefs or vaccination beliefs, whatever, you know, salt water is something we all connect in, and no matter what your beliefs, we've got that in common and we can all get along. So guys, I'm stoked to be here tonight, and I thank all of you. I know it takes a lot to take it out of your night and open up to these sorts of things, but you're taking a step in the right direction. So thanks, guys.
Beautiful. Thanks, Benny. You're a legend. The punk Yoda of mental health. Huh? Legend. Now we have Brett.
I'd rather be the long-haired hippie, Steve, but I can't.
No, punks get a lot more chicks, I tell you. I know. No, but next we got Brett. Brett's story. I've stalked Brett for a few years on social media, and I got to talk to him for the first time today. And it's a bit of man crush, actually. It used to be Ben, but now it's changed. Sorry, Benny, you've now moved on. But Brett, would you share your unbelievable story with the crew?
Yeah, no worries. And thanks for it's actually good to catch up with you for the first time today. I think before I share a little bit about my story, I think it's good to acknowledge the wealth of information and story that we've got on the panel tonight. It's something that is so special and something that really helped me get into this space in the first place. As Luke mentioned right at the start, I was attacked by a shark about 5.5 years ago while surfing my local beach down here in Kiama, which is a significant day for me for a number of reasons. Obviously, you know, being attacked by a shark is a significant event, but for me, that really marked the start of my journey with my mental health and was really what got me into this space. So, you know, the attack itself, and that's, I suppose, what a lot of people want to know about, what they want to find out about, and probably what a lot of people have the most questions about. And look, to save everyone who might have questions later on, I'll quickly answer probably the most 3 common ones that I do get. The first one is, did it hurt? The answer to that's no. The second one was, how big was the shark? And unfortunately, I didn't have my tape measure at the time, but they did measure it about 2.5 to 3 meters. And the third question is, what was going through your head at the time? And for me, that's a pretty interesting question, because I think, you know, if I try and get everyone to put themselves in my shoes and, you know, ask yourself what's going through your head if you get knocked off your surfboard just as you're surfing any afternoon, you know, you look down and before you can even figure out what's going on, you see a shark biting your leg. I can guarantee a lot of people have a 4-letter word or a collection of 4-letter words that's probably going through their head. But for me, it was nothing. There was no thoughts going through my head. It was just me going through the shock of trying to figure out what had happened. And that is a moment I look back on regularly, because it was so pivotal in me being able to realize a lot, not only about the situation, but about life in general when I reflect on that very moment. And it's not about what I was thinking then, it's about what that moment meant for me, especially as I, you know, tried to move forward with my life, because, you know, the coming months after that weren't easy. I was lucky enough to escape that situation with my life. I have my best friend Joel to thank for pulling me out of the water that afternoon and saving me. But, you know, the result of the attack itself meant that I lost 3/4 of my left quad. Along with that, the news from the doctors in being told that I would never walk again, I would never be active, and I would never surf again is really what started to impact me and my mental health. You know, for a lot of times I tell my story and there's not a room full of surfers who don't necessarily resonate with that, but I have the right crowd today. And, you know, if you can imagine that you've never been told that you can never surf again and think about how that impacts you, it's pretty life-changing. You know, as everyone said so far, surfing is such an amazing sport that brings us all together. And for me, surfing was more than just a sport I enjoyed. You know, it was more than just a sport that I happened to be pretty good at. I surfed competitively for a very long time. I'd had aspirations of making it onto the world tour from when I first stepped on a board at the age of 11. You know, for me, surfing is where my friends were. It was my career. I did surfing studies at university, which is a real thing if anyone's interested. You know, my whole life was really in that one direction of surfing. It's all I wanted to be involved in. It's all I represented. And having that taken away from me, it was more than just losing the sport. It was losing my purpose and my identity. It was leaving me in a place where I felt very alone and very isolated. And that's where the struggle really starts for me. You know, trying to go through something life-changing where I hadn't been before. I'd never really been through a major struggle up until that point. So I didn't have the tools to try and work through it. And I definitely wasn't getting through it alone. And for me, there was one conversation that really, you know, changed the trajectory of my recovery around. It was one that I had with my dad, where he, you know, he saw that I was struggling and just started that conversation with me. Noticed the ways I'd changed, and he just wanted to point out that I wasn't in it alone. He got me to have a look at, you know, my family, which is, you know, my two sisters, my mum and himself, and how they were actually going through a lot of the same things that I was. Because for me, I felt isolated, not only being in hospital, you know, not only, you know, at night times when everyone goes home, it's just you and your thoughts. You know, I was even statistically isolated, 1 in 3.6 million, if anyone was wondering, the odds of being attacked by a shark. So I needed someone to make me feel like I wasn't alone. And I was so lucky that my dad was there for me. And that was the thing that really turned my whole recovery around, because, you know, that allowed me to start looking at the support that was around me more. And on top of that, Dad got me linked in with some professional support as well, which was one of the biggest things that got me to start talking. And that was a very empowering thing for me in being able to recognize what had been happening to me and what I needed to do moving forward. So I always say with my story, there's kind of two recoveries. There's obviously the physical recovery and going through all of that rehab, having to learn how to walk again, learn how to run again, and eventually being able to get back on a board and surf. And that's one side of the recovery that was difficult. And I'm proud to say that I got through that. But I wouldn't have been able to take the first step on that recovery if I didn't address my mental health first. And that was one thing that really got me to get involved in this space, is I realized that I had an interesting, say, you know, so to speak, story to tell. You know, I had a lot of opportunities to tell my story because a lot of people are interested in shark tales. You know, and I realized that I wanted to try and use that to help other people. You know, I didn't want to look back in, you know, 20 years time and realize that I'd kept that story and everything I learned to myself. So that's, for me, one of the biggest things that got me in this space. And one thing I do see when I look around at everyone who's in this space, everyone that's on the panel tonight, and even everyone who's joined, is that a lot of the people who are here, it's because they genuinely care. And I think that speaks so much to, you know, Surfing New South Wales and everything that they're doing in this Mental Health 360 program. I think it's really at the forefront of, you know, anything that I've seen out there in trying to support surfing as a community. I think it's so powerful and so important, something that I'm very proud to be a part of as well. So before I do finish up, I just want to say thanks for having me on the panel, and thanks for doing everything that you guys do for our amazing community.
Wow. You can be Prime Minister. Oh, could he? He could be a frigging Prime Minister. Don't about the mental health stuff. Change the mental health of the whole world.
You think anyone can but ScoMo? Sorry, Connellan.
Okay. 9 a.m. tomorrow. I'm getting speaking lessons, presenting lessons. You are fantastic. Hey, what a wonderful story. And you know, you can find more about each of these people's stories. Go stalk them on their social medias. They're in the chat now. But now we're going to hear from our fearless leader, Luke Madden, who is the CEO of Surfing New South Wales, about how, he's been navigating through COVID and, the last 24 months. That's been a big 24 months for him. Lukey.
Thanks, Steve. And yeah, amazing panelists. You really appreciate everyone's time. That's amazing stories. I think from myself, we obviously had a big loss of John Shamuka, which was a personal, huge battle for myself and a lot of people on this call. Ben Higgs and Steve and Kurt were really involved in that. So to share a bit about that story, basically Shmuel and I became best mates for a number of years in the lead up to that. I was with him every day, surfing every day. And it's really important to know that how much that the surfing and saltwater does affect someone. And I literally saw that. Like when we were surfing every day, it was evident that he was happier. And so I think I've seen that. And I think, like Ben and what Steve said, it doesn't matter sometimes how much support you have around yourself. You really just want to, you want to make sure that you have that education and you have all the tools that, especially for all the groms now, that all this great info, you've got to suck it in now. I think that's really important. There's been a lot of gold in this conversation right now that, and Koda's a classic example of that, of taking it in, learning from it and really absorbing it. And it's up to you as a person to really take that in and want that. And we've heard some great stories from Ben Higgs, Toby and Koda that's been life-changing. And we Shmoo, again, we went through so many ebbs and flows and I'm pretty proud to say that how we handled it afterwards was a huge, it was a huge thing for me personally, but knowing that, we did do everything we could, and we had the education of knowing that really helped me as a person. Without knowing that and doing the mental health first aid course, and having the support of my boardriders club and my family and my friends, especially Semi, that wouldn't have been as easy for me as a person. So, when things like that happen, those crises, whether it be a suicide or a shark attack, how do you deal with it as a person? I'm really grateful that I've had all this education and taken it, absorbed it in, and that's helped me as a person deal with that situation. And then therefore I wasn't having to just deal with it myself. I was dealing with it with Brandon. I was Brandon's one of his main supporters and trying to help him. His Shmoo's other mates trying to navigate the funeral and all these other things. It was a pretty crazy time that I found the strength in the information, the education that I had actually helped me get through it. And then my next journey was actually helping our team, our surfing sales team, digest it and go through it. And again, education and getting the right people around. And I'll never, forget a couple of surfs that our team had as a group and how powerful that was, and so, having those surfs together, connecting with people was really what helped me and my team get through that crazy situation. And we can really, come off the back of it now and learn and try and help that community. And that's what this is about. We're trying to get people together, and we've got great examples of that from Kurt and Toby, really looking after the ex-pros and looking after their well-being. And I want to do that through Surfing New South Wales, and we've got the resources here, and we want all the board rider clubs to be a big part of that, and brands and general, surfers and community people. We've got the platform. We need the help to engage those local communities, and that's what this is about. And finally, just with COVID, my role here has been trying to help, our full-time staff, and then also connecting with the board rider clubs and surf schools. We know how important it is to, and then in some cases go surfing. Maroubra was locked down, and people couldn't surf last year. So, our job was to try and help that community get back and open that up as soon as possible. And that was a really difficult time. And I think something for myself, having the tools to go forward and deal with these massive projects in your life is really important. So yeah, definitely. I encourage the whole crew here on this conversation is to reach out. Our team has the tools, we've got the program, and we really want to engage and get more people on the ground helping us reach more surfers.
I think the important thing, Luke, you touched about is when you're in a crisis, it's great that there's information and these channels available, but it's even more important to learn before there's a crisis. And we're lucky as athletes that we've got access to many people that come along in your life and set up these mental tools. You're going to have hurdles, you're going to have setbacks, the psychology of the mind. When you're trying to be a professional athlete, you go through these injuries and setbacks, you don't achieve your goals. There's a whole bunch of this mental pressure. So we're really fortunate as athletes that we get access to all these people, psychologists, trainers, and people that inject this mindset into you that, I mean, I won 2 events in 15 years. You're going to lose a lot, especially when you throw in that buddy Kelly Slater and Andy Irons and Mick Fanning and Joel and all those people that soaked up all the victories. They were pretty rare and bloody hard to get. So you've got to actually, when you've got this thirst for winning, you've actually got to prepare yourself a lot more because you lose a hell of a lot more pretty much every week. And then the cherry on top is getting to the top of that mountain, but it's developing those skills along the way. And if we can inject this into people along the way, I mean, I probably had 5 people that wanted to kill themselves last week that reach out to me, and people that know me say, oh, there's always a lot going on in your life. I know when you know a lot of people, it's actually really hard to have time for everyone. And we certainly try and do that. Educate yourself on the tools, Luke, that we need. And then to have the great elixir of life, surfing, being down the beach, if we can compromise that or compound that, and make that work and turn that into a fun thing where it's not just I looked at some of those points of, the guys talking about getting into schools. Jordan said it was that moment at school where someone came into the class and that pivotal change that unlocked, such a great emotional story and a release and a stoic journey of resilience. And, Brett's saying he had that conversation with his father. Just, there's so much that goes on in your life. I mean, personally, when you stop being an athlete and then you got to find what else is next. I mean, as an athlete, everyone asks you for an interview. And then I went into real estate where you call people and they do not want to talk to you. They are very abrupt on the phone and have lots of those 4-letter words and tell you where exactly to go. And no, I'm not effing selling my house. So it's really different to on Toby Martin. They go, oh, mate, you're the surfer. And there's half an hour conversation. You're going, all right, this is great. Do I get to sell your house? No, you can have it. Right. But so there's all these other things that happen in our life that are mindsets, and probably the most challenging for me and a lot of people that I talk to is when there's a change in your life and your family structure. And I know, Luke, you wanted to sort of talk about this, and I kind of learned from Des Hasler, the great Manly Seagulls coach, when he said, how often do you sleep, Des? And he said, I don't really want to tell you because I don't want to alarm you too much. But, I mean, I've had a life change, like a lot of us have as professional surfers. You travel around the world and it's this glamorous lifestyle, and everyone thinks it's amazing and how lucky you are. It takes a shitload of work, even for the guys that have talent or girls that have talent that are there. You're not there forever. You're not, the superstar. You don't have people talking to you for interviews forever. And sometimes our lifestyles after the tour, our divorce rate is pretty terrible. I think real estate tops that. So I've just sort of gone the double whammy of, one extreme to the super extreme. But just there's a lot of that out there with families is what I see is the biggest mental challenge. And especially when you look at some of the conversations, the people involved in this, I see my daughter at the moment 9 hours a week, and you fight a massive battle of bureaucracy you jump through hoops, and just to not have your child is a massive emotional pull at you, and you're trying to do everything right, and relationships don't always work, and you think, well, it's just best to focus on the child. So there's so much in that space as well, and you sort of compound that, I guess, again, the double whammy. Most of my job is when I'm coming in to sell a house, it's people separating, and it's such an emotional thing when you think about just selling things, tough in the retail space, but when you walk into someone's house as a real estate agent, the kids have grown up there. They've got all these memories. You're walking into their bedroom. It's highly emotive. I had a call last night from the kids of someone I sold saying it's worth another $1 million now. And I said, well, that's great. Everything is from December, but there was still that animosity there, and it's a market price. And I had a half an hour conversation. Obviously, they were a little bit jolly, and they probably worked up the nerve to give me a call. And I was probably worked up enough to give them a bit of a reality check in there as well. And saying, yeah, look, what happened in that situation? She said, Dad bought another place. And I said, yeah, I know. Paddy was really happy. He's head of the union, actually, sold his place. And so I said, has he made money on that place? And I said, well, that's all part of it, that they've bought, in my job, it's like an onion. People don't always want to tell you the truth. People say, look, you're a real estate agent. They're guarded, and it takes trust points or credit points or whatever that is to get into that situation and really find out what the truth is. I mean, I had one old couple, I thought they were together when I was selling it, and then towards the end of the process, all her stuff was gone. And I said, the Russian couple, and I said, where's your wife gone? He goes, I tell you after it's sold. And I was like, is she dead? Have I got to report this? What is going on here? Is this a murder? Is she going to be down the bottom when I go show people the garage? I just, you deal with all these freaky situations, and not a lot surprises me anymore in real estate, but it's that trust point. I mean, you can imagine walking into a situation and no one really wants to tell you, he's been cheating on me, bloody, this is the house, we've brought the kids up, and, it's wild. It's the wildest ride I've ever been on in real estate, just the emotional side of it, the phone calls last night where people want to call you, but the tools of education, I guess, is my point, and especially in that family sector when I guess all of us, if we start to go back and have a look at some of the stats out there, our suicide rate and areas we really need to improve. It's going to be a slow process with the Family Court of Australia, but I mean, it's standing up, it's opening up conversations. There's just so much to enjoy about it. And the number one word is you're not isolated, you're not alone. And, for Garth and Shmoo, it was letting go and being courageous enough to speak out. And I really applaud Surfing New South Wales and Luke taking this on, and everyone that's here on the panel tonight. We've just got to keep chipping away at making this happen. If we can work at 1%, 2% a day to have the surfing events, go state to state, make that bigger, getting into schools. I mean, I want to see that rate of 3,000 suicides, head the other way. It's just ridiculous. And then you throw in COVID. You look at some of the stats there. Lifeline have had, I think they had 2,500 calls in one day, like their most ever.
Yeah, I think
it's crazy. People that were isolated. I lived alone as well, didn't have my daughter or my family. That was tough because I couldn't talk to anyone. No one was allowed at the house. And then you talk to people that, I talk to a lot of lawyers as well, and they're telling me, we're really busy. I can't stand living with him, or can't stand living with her as well. So it's both of it. It's confined spaces. It's, we're in probably one of the most challenging fields of all time. And I think let's grab hold of this. Let's make it something that's positive. Like all these experiences with all of us, whether it be shark attacks, change of life, marriage breakups, successes. Let's turn this around and change it and reduce that number of suicides. I mean, I had a great mate, Grant Tompkins, who was a firey, and the nicest guy in the world. I actually never heard him say, like, really get upset. He had, you know, a nice quirky mo, sort of had a little knock-knee style, really good natural footer. But one day he just got up from dinner and jumped off Mona Vale Headland. And it was just like, you know, some people you can see it, others you can't. And
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think so. We have the support. I think that's like, we have board clubs, we have it here, but they need to know how to connect. And I think that's what this is about, trying to do. And starting somewhere is what we're about. And then if we can make that ripple effect down into local communities, and then it can keep rippling down, that's something we're trying to do. We, you know, at Surfing Souls, there's 120 board rider clubs and 50 surf schools. So it's a great network on the ground. And then, you know, it's not just the board rider club, it's the connection of the community around them, the surf shops, the brands. You know, it's so good to see here, you know, Phil McDonald, John Mossop. You know, there's so much connection with the surfing community, and our job we see as a connector for all those conversations. So yeah, really appreciate the whole panel. And Steve, do you want to jump to some questions?
Yeah. So look, if you've got a couple of questions, audience, let them rip. Okay, this is a safe space. We've got some unbelievable minds here. You can ask them, and we can share them, and get some answers for you. Look, I've got some. So, you know, how do we know if one of our, this is for the panel, how do we know if one of our friends or family or one of the people in our club is doing it tough? You know, what are some of those key signs? What do you see as those key signs? Benny, what do you see?
I think they just sort of get sheltered. They put themselves away. They stop being social. They don't communicate that well. They go within themselves a bit, like seeing what we've dealt with down here with certain things. But you can never really tell, like you really can't tell what's going through everyone's mind at that time, I guess. But that's one of the questions that we spoke about when we did our Suicide for Pro Surfers sort of thing. We talked about signs, and we had those keynote speakers saying, when are those signs and how do you identify them? And that was what they sort of said. It was like, if you see me start being a bit out of not my normal self, if you can see me being a little bit of a loner, or you know, just reach out. It can be just a hug, it can be a handshake.
Yeah,
that's from my side anyway.
Yeah, I think a good point on that too is, you know, it's noticing these changes, but it's not always someone that's down either, or someone that withdraws, or some, you know, we have this, you know, and it's good, but it's important to recognize those signs. But there's also the signs that someone may be overly up compared to what they used to be, you know. I live with bipolar, and half of that is manic episodes. So, you know, people can, you know, we talk about someone's normal personality here, and we're quite used to, you know, looking for the signs when someone's down here, but it's also when they're up here. It's just about noticing any change in someone at all. And if we notice any change in someone, you know, we have this perception that we don't always know what's going on. Well, you know what we can do? We can ask the person. Anytime we see any type of change in someone that just doesn't seem right, that we don't get the right feeling, whatever it is, you know, with their appearance, the way they're talking, the way they're acting, whatever it may be, a simple question is how we work out whether something's up or not. And it can be as simple as, would you like my help? I've noticed this, this, and this. Point it out to someone, you know. Think about it if we see someone with a broken leg or their arm in a sling or a cut. We don't tiptoe around those signs. We actually point out, mate, look at your leg. What have you done? But when we see the signs in someone with changes in someone mentally, we have this perception we've got to tiptoe around it because we may be rude, or we may insult the person, or whatever, or we may make it worse. Well, you know what? I can't put a cast on a broken leg, and I can't stitch a cut. But me putting pressure on it and elevating and trying to help them isn't going to hurt them. It's not going to make it worse. And this is exactly the same. This is how we start to make that change and make sure that everyone's all right. Anytime we see a change in someone, be upfront and ask them. You know, there's no point in tiptoeing around it, because we've all probably been there, that the way people are seeing us is different to how we see ourselves. And we may not realize just what we're projecting, because we all have that bit of pride and we all try and wear that mask. So by you actually pointing it out to the person, and John asked this sort of before, there's never a bad time to bring it up. You know, there's never a bad time to say, you know, hey, mate, like I use Steve, and he said, hey, Steve, mate, I've noticed, mate, you're just not yourself lately. Or, mate, I've noticed you put on a lot of weight or lost a lot of weight. Or, mate, can't really say it, but, mate, normally your beard's really fucking trimmed really nice, mate, and your hair's done, mate, and you've let yourself go, mate. What's going on? What's happened? And we don't know. It could be that, you know, like Steve's got a baby in the house. It could be that the baby's crook and he's keeping him up all night. And then we go, okay, that's pretty normal, sweet. But at least we've ticked that box. We know what we've done, and we eliminate that where you just don't know. Yeah. But actually pointing it out to the person. You know, we need to get rid of this idea that we have to tiptoe around things. Let's get right to the point and look at it the exact same way we would if it was something physical with the person. Because as I said, not one of us would be worried about, even if it was someone on this chat, on this session tonight that you didn't know, but you could see they were there with their arm in a sling, we'd all be okay with saying, hey, mate, what happened? You know, did you hurt yourself out in the surf? Or what, did you have a fall, did you? But we've just got to start getting our heads around it that way. And I don't think it's because we don't want to. It's just that we've never done it, and we've never been told that actually we can say this and we can do this. You know, kids, you know, I've got a 9 and a 7. I had to check how old my kids were then. I've got a 9 and a 7-year-old. And what do? We teach them what to do if they graze their legs. We teach them what they do if they bump their heads. You know, we teach them all this stuff, but for in here, we don't. And that's why it's on us. And I think the big part of it is, and it's what sort of gets to me, not gets to me a bit, but it gets missed, is there's this big talk that if you're feeling down and you're going through these things and everything, you need to speak up and reach out to someone and chat and get it off your chest. I can tell you right now, as someone that has been there, you know, for as long as I can remember that I've been living with this, you know, when you're in that place, you feel like a burden to people. So you don't want to talk to people. You don't want to open it up because you don't want to be vulnerable. You don't think that you should. You know, we all have that imposter syndrome, or, you know, Johnny down the road's got heaps worse than me. Why should I be feeling like this? You know, I've got a good job. You know, I've got a good family, all of that. So sometimes the hardest thing for someone to do is to actually speak about it. So it's on us to actually point it out and to actually reach into that person and get it out of them and say, no, tell me. Actually tell me, you know, and to be honest about it. And you know, would you like my help is an easy opening to that, because if that person says yes, that trust is there. That trust is automatically there. And then actually, well, how can I help? So, and again, it takes all the guesswork out, because you don't need to know anything in all of this. You could never have experienced, or you know what? It could be a stranger that you've never met before. You don't know anything about them. Say, how could you help that person? Well, they're going to tell you. Actually put it back on the person. Takes all the guesswork out. It's you know, it sounds so simple, but it is simple. You know, we don't need to overcomplicate this. Of course, it's complicated enough, but we leave that to the professionals. You know, all those crisis lines and websites that Steve put up before, leave that side to them. But the actual simple things of how can I help, you know, we probably all know what it's like to be sick, or, you know, a new baby in the house and someone brings around a meal. Or, you know what? I had one of my mates do it today. Rang me. It's not that windy at Southend at the moment. We're going surfing. And straight away I was like, oh, and he said, no, if I've got to come around your house and get you, I am, but we're going. Those little things like that little push, because then I knew, because I've had a rough couple of days and I've spoken to him about it, you know, and he can sense it. That little push, I knew that he was doing it because he knew to get me down there, because he knew I'd feel better about it. You know, those little things like that. But it's one thing I really want to stress tonight is to stop thinking that it's complicated and overcomplicated. You know, if you notice it, point it out to someone. And actually, you know, we let them know, you know, and let them know that we're doing it because we care and we want to help them, not because we're going to make fun of them, put on Facebook, whatever. No, but you can always have a little rib to your mate, you know, Steve, mate, you've let yourself go, mate. What's going on? You know, what can I do? But these conversations, we've just got to get comfortable and used to them. And the more we do it, the easier it gets. And the easier it gets, and the more we do it, the more open it is for everyone. You know, it should be just as like someone getting on here tonight and saying, "Yeah, I was out in the water today and I blew my shoulder out." And we'd all understand it. If someone got on here tonight, and like I've been having a bad day, every single one of us would go, "Yeah, I've had a couple of bad days." And we can start to connect there.
I think that's
me being at school.
Go.
Yeah, for me being at school and not seeing everyone because of lockdown, we've been at home. The only time we've been seeing them if we're on a Zoom call at class. I actually just found that every couple of weeks or once a week, I'd call 3 or 4 people at a time, just at different conversations. And yeah, the first thing I said was, "How you been? Like, I haven't seen you in ages. Has anything changed?" And just got that conversation going so that he knows or they know that I'm there when they need me. And it's just building that conversation. So then if I need help, I'm going to call him because we've spoken before. And yeah, it has been hard in lockdown because you can't go see anyone. So phone calls have been probably more important than ever, I guess. And I just called him to see how he was, like one person in particular. We ended up talking for an hour and it was great because I found out he actually hasn't been doing too well. So I got to help him in a way and he told me what was going on. So it helped me realize a couple of things. And yeah, it was just good because I've called him again and he seems like he's back on track. And yeah, those little phone calls really help.
Yeah. And what I like too, like as blokes, we don't want to be, you know, you ring your mate and have this heart to heart all the time about what's going on in your life. You know, I don't know if girls like to do it, but I certainly don't. And like what me and one of my mates has got is we've got a code. We text each other every day. So we use from 0 to 50 and it's like a weight sort of analogy. And we talk about if you've got a bar on your shoulders and how much weight's on it. And the heavier it is, the more things you got going on in your life. And he knows for me, anything up to 30 kilos normal, because we've all got stuff going on. From 30 to 40 means he needs to call me straight away. And from 40 to 50, he's coming around. And, you know, it's the same for him. And it's a little code we've worked out so that we don't have to have that heart-pouring conversation all the time. It's just a little check-in. And, you know, and it's such a simple thing to do, but so powerful as well because we know where each other's at. It could be, you know, what's your surf like today? Oh, I'm at 2 foot. Well, you know, everyone's sweet to paddle out 2 foot, I'm okay. But if they send back, mate, it's 8 foot and closing out, that's our cue to go around and check in and go make sure they're okay. You know, these little things we can start to do with each other and little ways we can do it so we can start making these inroads. And, you know, that hard bit of that confronting thing of having to open up, well, you take that all off the table. So if there is someone that you think that could work with, put it into place. It could be a color, could be whatever, you know, just these little different ways we can start to go about it, make it easier for everyone.
Yeah, I love that. And I've always loved that, Benny. Get yourself talking. As soon as we have the conversation around mental health with our friends and family when we're well, it's a hell of a lot easier to have it when we're not well. Okay. And I want everyone on here to remember this. Okay. Each of us on this call have the right to be healthy. It doesn't matter if it's our physical health and it doesn't matter if it's our mental health, because in the end, our health is health and we all have the right to be healthy. Just like our physical health, if we notice changes and we nip it in the bud early, you know, we don't get unwell and our recovery time is quicker. If we leave those niggling things, those changes in our thoughts and our feelings and our behaviours and our physical well-being, crawl on, and we don't nip it in the bud early, what happens is it increases the severity of our illness and the severity and the treatment time required. So if you notice something, reach out, get some help. Remember, to be vulnerable is to be strong, okay? Health is health, and everyone on this call has the right to be healthy. Look, guys, we've gone half an hour over, and everyone stayed on. So everyone must be interested in this. So, look, I'm sure this is going to be the last one we do. Watch out for take 2. or 2.0 or whatever the hell we call it. But I'd like to thank all our panelists for today. Kurt, Koda, Benny, Brett, Tobes, Mr. Madden. I'd like to thank the Surfing New South Wales team as well for putting this together. It's been unbelievable. I'd like to thank Mad Mex as well. If everyone gets on their burritos, I think you can still order them. Please, guys, we're looking for champions to support mental health along the coast. Okay, we're looking for champions to support the mental well-being of every surfer and their community. Okay, if you're interested or you know someone who'd be good for that, hit the Surfing New South Wales 360 page, make an inquiry, put your hand up. If you want something in your board riders clubs, take it online for now, or we can wait and do it face-to-face when the COVID coaster finishes. But remember, each of you have the right to be healthy. Reach out to get support if you need it. There's lots of wonderful resources that you'll find on the Surfing New South Wales 360 page. And remember, you're not alone. Thank you, legends, for participating today and looking, you're all looking bloody good. Even the ones with the cameras off are looking good. And Ben, you were looking especially good. All right.
Oh, wait a second. You just told me I've gone down a rung. You've got to give Brett a rap now.
Yeah, but I've already given Brett a big rap, mate. So, but
hey, Steve, we might just get a quick little screenshot photo.
Ooh, yeah.
Kate, is that all right if you help us out with that one?
Yeah, all good. Let me just go to
we want to
gallery.
make sure people, we're sharing this message to say that so many people have been on, and Kate will lead us with the screenshots.
All right, everybody's ready. Page 1, you're up. Here we go. Smiling party people. 3, 2, and 1. Awesome. Page 2.
No one knows what page you're on either.
Well, the next crew. The next crew, turn your cameras on down there. We've got about 6 with the cameras off. I'll give you 3 seconds. 3, 2.5. Come on, a couple more.
Here we go.
1. Here we go. Smile, everyone. 3, 2, 1. And our last page. Oh, that was it. Some people have dropped off, but we did have quite a few on invite. So well done, everyone.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone, and really appreciate your time and connecting with us. And we'll be doing more of these, so look out for them. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Very well.
Thanks.